What would you do if you received a wedding invitation for your own wedding and you didn't send it? The envelope smelled like old roses and dust. It was sealed with red wax. No stamp, no return address, just my name and a date, July 14th, tomorrow, 2 p.m., St. Elora's Chapel. But here's the part that made my stomach twist. Under groom's name, it said, Nathaniel Elric. My full name. I'm not getting married. I haven't even been on a date in over a year. So who, what, sent this? The paper felt brittle, like something preserved for decades. But the ink was fresh, wet at the corners. And the script, it looked like mine. I stared at it until the words blurred. My throat felt tight. The kind of tight you get when you know something's watching you. I didn't sleep that night. And when I checked the mailbox the next morning, there was nothing there. Not the invitation. Not even junk mail. Like it never existed. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. My name. That church. St. Elora's. A place I hadn't heard of since my childhood nightmares. I used to dream of a chapel on a cliff. Crumbling. Empty. Candlelight flickering. From rooms no one should be in. Felt familiar. But I had no memory of ever being there. That morning, something pulled me out of bed. Something irrational. Like a string tied to the base of my spine, yanking me north. I drove. 3 hours. Up winding hills and fog-stained roads. And when I arrived, there it was. Just like my dreams. Just like the invitation. St. Elora's Chapel. Gothic. Forgotten. Still standing like a bone in the earth. Its doors were open. Not cracked. Not broken. Open. Like it had been expecting me. My hands were trembling. But I stepped inside. Because something deep inside me whispered, "You've been here before." The pews were dust-coated. Rose petals wilted on the aisle carpet. A lace veil sat on the altar, folded neatly, waiting. The silence was thick, like the air had weight. Then, the organ creaked. One long note, drawn out, like a held breath. I turned, but no one was there. And yet, something moved behind the curtain. Something slow and dragging. My breath caught, and I whispered to the dark, "Who's getting married today?" But the voice that answered was mine. It echoed from the back of the chapel, mocking, distorted, like it had been stitched together. Nathaniel Elric takes the hand of. Then silence. I stumbled back, knocked over a pew. My pulse was thundering. There were no lights, no electricity, no footsteps but mine. But I wasn't alone. As I backed out into the daylight, a shadow passed through the stained glass behind me. And something was scrawled across the doors now. In dried red. "You said I do before. But I've never been married. At least, I don't remember. Now I need to know. What happened here? What did I forget? And why is the date on that invitation? July 14th, 1998? The year I was born. What if your past wasn't forgotten, but buried, and someone or something was starting to dig it up? I didn't sleep that night. Not after what I saw at St. Elora's. Not after hearing my own voice come from a place I'd never walked. I kept the wedding invitation on the table beside me. Didn't touch it. Didn't burn it. Because something told me, if I destroyed it, the thing that sent it would come looking. I told myself I imagined it all. The veil, the petals, the voice. But when I looked down, my palms were still covered in dust. From the pews, and on my wrist, a faint red mark, like someone had held it. I had to go back. I had to see the chapel again. In daylight. Maybe I'd missed something. Maybe it would all make sense. In the sun. But when I returned the next morning, there was no sun. Only fog. Thick and suffocating. Blanketing the road, the trees, the sky. I parked in the same spot. The chapel looked the same. But the front doors weren't open this time. They were shut, tightly, with the faint sound of something humming behind them. I pushed. The door creaked like it hadn't been touched in decades. But inside, everything was cleaner. The petals were gone. The veil vanished. The pews looked polished. as if they'd been used just yesterday. I stepped inside, heart pounding so loud. It drowned out the silence. The organ was still. The curtain no longer swayed. But something new caught my eye. A hymnal, left open. On the last pew, its pages were yellowed, but pressed between them, a photograph, old, faded, edges curled. It showed a couple, smiling, hands interlocked, faces blurred from age and moisture, but the man looked like me. No, not just like me. It was me. Same jaw, same nose, same scar on the left eyebrow from when I fell off my bike in 3rd grade. I felt the world tilt, like gravity stopped working. Who was this woman beside me? Why did we look so happy? And how was this photo dated? July 14th, 2017? That would have made me 19. And yet I had no memory of ever standing in that church, holding a woman like that. I flipped the photo over. On the back was a single phrase, in looping cursive ink. You promised her forever. I stumbled back, hit the edge of the pew. My chest was tight again, panic rising like a flood. And then, I heard it, the sound of lace, dragging across the aisle, slow, measured, like someone in a gown, walking toward me. But when I turned, there was no one there, just that same feeling, like something was watching me. From the edge of the walls, I grabbed the hymnal, clutched the photo, and that's when I saw the second thing. A carved message, on the back of the altar, not written, scratched into the wood. He said yes, but he ran. My stomach dropped. The doors behind me slammed shut. No wind, no breeze, just shut. I turned and sprinted, pushing them open with all my weight. As I spilled out into the fog, I could swear, just for a second, I heard her voice behind me, whispering, soft, pleading, please don't leave me again. But I don't remember ever leaving her. I don't remember any of this. And that's what terrifies me most. Because the more I dig, the more I feel like I didn't forget. I was made to forget. And whatever I buried at St. Elora's isn't staying buried. Have you ever looked into the eyes of someone who knows you, but you don't remember them? What would you say if they said you promised forever and then left them behind? I couldn't sleep after what I found at St. Elora's. That photograph, the same face as mine, smiling like he was in love, standing beside a woman I didn't know, in a chapel I barely remembered. But something deeper gnawed at me. That date, July 14th, 2017. The year I was supposed to be in rehab. For 6 months. No visitors. No contact. A total blackout from the world. So how could I have been in that church? How could I have held her hand when I didn't even know her name? I had to find out who she was. But the photo had no ID. Just a phrase written in ink. You promised her forever. I scanned the photo, ran it through a reverse search engine. Nothing. Not a single match. So I did what I never thought I'd do. I called my estranged mother. We hadn't spoken in 3 years. But if anyone knew something about my past, it would be her. The moment she answered, her voice cracked. Nathaniel, like she hadn't expected me to still be alive. I told her everything. About the invitation, the church, the photograph, silence on the line. Then, a long, slow breath. Don't go back there, she said. Her voice was trembling. You told me it was over. You swore you burned everything. I froze. What do you mean everything? More silence. Then she whispered. Her name was Celia. Celia Bramwell. A chill ran through my arms. She was your fiancée. I gripped the phone tighter. Why don't I remember her? Another long pause. She wasn't real, Nathaniel, but you loved her like she was. I didn't understand. Didn't want to. I pressed her harder. That's when she broke. You used to draw her face on napkins, talk to her at night, sleep with her letters under your pillow. She sobbed. You called me once and said the wedding was tomorrow, that she finally said yes. I didn't remember any of this. None. But she did. And she sounded scared. You went missing for 3 days. No phone. No wallet. You came back covered in bruises and dirt. You said you left her at the altar. Then you screamed for hours. She whispered one last thing. Before hanging up, don't go back to St. Elora's. She's still waiting for you. Click. I sat there in the dark. Photo on my lap. Phone buzzing with silence. Then, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then out. And from my hallway, I heard it. A soft knock. Then another. Then a whisper. Just barely audible. I waited. In white. I opened the door. Nothing. No one. Just a faint trail of white petals. Leading down the hallway. Ending at my bedroom door. I stepped closer. My hands shaking. My breath stuck. I opened the door. And there, laying on my bed, was her veil. The same one from the church. Folded. Pristine. Fresh drops of rosewater on the corner. And underneath it, a small scrap of paper. Burnt at the edges. As if rescued from a fire. On it, a single line. Finish what you started. But I don't remember starting anything. I don't remember her. But she remembers everything. And somehow, whatever she is now, still wants that wedding. What if every memory you trusted was a lie? What if the version of you in your mind wasn't the one the world remembers? That night, after the veil appeared on my bed, I didn't sleep. I sat in the corner of my room, lights on, watching the lace shimmer in the low hum of the lamp. It smelled faintly of lilac and burned paper, and something older, rot maybe, or grief. I didn't touch it, but I couldn't stop staring at it either. The way the folds fell, the tiny hand-sewn pearls lining the edge. It looked handmade, too fragile to survive time, and yet it had. And the note beneath it, finish what you started. Those words wouldn't stop echoing in my head. I couldn't remember starting anything. No proposal, no wedding plans, no woman named Celia Bramwell. But then again, my mother had said I'd disappeared once. For 3 days, returned bloodied and broken. She said I screamed, that I saw something, someone, when I closed my eyes. So I tried something I hadn't done since I was a kid. I pulled out a mirror, held it up to my face, and stared. I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect this. My reflection was wrong. Not broken, just off. His eyes lingered a moment too long. His lips curled when mine didn't move. And just as I turned away, he smiled. A cold, knowing smile. I dropped the mirror. Glass shattered. But I didn't hear it hit the floor. Because the moment it cracked, a voice behind me whispered, I do. I spun around. Nothing. Empty hallway. No wind. No sound. Just the heavy silence of something holding its breath. I ran. Left my apartment. Got in the car. Drove without a plan. Just anywhere that wasn't home. Anywhere that didn't smell like lace and lilac. I don't remember much of the drive. Just trees, fog, and the growing ache behind my eyes. But my hands, they moved on their own. Like they knew where to go. And then, I was there. St. Elora's. Again. I told myself I wouldn't go back. But something pulled me. And this time, the chapel lights were on. Candles. Hundreds of them. Lining the pews. Glowing from behind the altar. As if someone had prepared it. For me. And hanging from the final pew was a tuxedo. Black. Pressed. My size. With a note pinned to the collar. Don't be late this time. My heart thudded. I stepped inside. Drawn to the aisle. The candles flickered. As if breathing. The same hymnal sat on the altar. But this time, the photo had changed. Same couple. Same chapel. Same blurred woman beside me. But now, my eyes were missing. 2 black holes burned through my face in the photo. And scrawled across the bottom. You broke her. The organ let out a low moan. Not music. Not sound. Grief. And behind the curtain, something moved. I stepped closer. My feet barely making a sound on the dusty red carpet. I pulled the curtain aside. And there, sitting in a broken rocking chair, was an old man. Eyes blank. Skin pale. Mouth open like he'd been mid-sentence for years. But what chilled me was what he was holding, a wedding ring, on a velvet pillow, covered in dust. The same ring from the photo, the one I didn't remember buying. He looked up, just barely. His lips cracked open. "She waited," he rasped. "But you didn't come." I swallowed. My voice barely worked. "Who are you?" His eyes locked onto mine. "I'm the part of you that stayed behind." And then he collapsed, like his body had been waiting for that moment to break. I stood there, frozen, and from the rafters, I heard footsteps, not above, inside the walls, heels, clicking slowly, coming closer, click, 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 each one louder than the last, heavier. Then, the doors slammed shut. I turned, tried to run, but the organ flared again, and the candles dimmed, until only one remained, the one on the altar, where the veil now lay, and the ring sat beside it. And in the silence, the church began to whisper my name, over and over and over. Nathaniel, 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 until it sounded like 1,000 voices, some weeping, some begging, some laughing, covered my ears, screamed, and when I opened my eyes, she was standing in the aisle. Celia, no longer blurred, no longer a memory, but real, eyes hollow, dress decayed, skin gray as stone, yet her lips moved, like she remembered love. "You left me once," she said. "You don't get to leave again." What if the one memory you're most afraid to uncover is the one that already defines you? What if you were the haunting? She was standing there, at the end of the aisle, wearing a dress that looked too old to be white. Veins of mildew bloomed beneath the fabric. Lace sagged around her collar like it had drowned in time. Her skin was pale like marble left in the rain. But her voice, it still sounded human, just barely. "You left me once. You don't get to leave again." I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My hands gripped the pew in front of me, like it was the only thing keeping me here, and not slipping into whatever nightmare this was. But as I stared at her, the static in my mind cracked. Just for a second, I remembered, not much, a smell, lilacs, the feel of cold stone under my knees, and her laugh, bright, alive, back when her face had color, and her eyes didn't glow like hollow moons. "Nathaniel," she whispered, "do you remember what you said?" I shook my head, trembling. She stepped closer. The chapel air grew colder. The candles hissed. Every step she took, I remembered more. A rose garden, me kneeling, her saying yes, but not to me, not the me I know, to someone more confident, more loving, more real, someone I used to be, before something broke, before the missing time, before the memory blacked out. We're in a stone chapel, St. Elora's, but cleaner, alive. The organ plays faintly. Rain taps the stained glass like soft applause. I hold her hand. "Forever, right?" she says, and I smile. "Forever," I answer. Then something shifts. Behind the altar, a figure moves. A shadow, tall, thin, no face. She doesn't see it. Only I do. And in that moment, I flinch. Her smile fades. "What's wrong?" And my answer is the last thing I remember. I can't. "I'm sorry," I gasped. The air in the chapel felt heavier now, like water pressing in from every side. Celia tilted her head. "You said you'd love me forever, then you ran." Her voice cracked, not with anger, but betrayal. Real, human, raw. I tried to speak, but something inside me clenched shut, because I could feel it now. I did love her. At least, I once did. "Why did I leave you?" I asked. She blinked. And when she opened her mouth, a different voice came out. Low, male, like a growl in the dirt. "Because you saw me." Her face contorted. Something behind her skin moved. A shifting, like hands pressed from inside her skull. And her eyes, they weren't hers anymore. Too black, too wide, reflecting something ancient. I stumbled backward. "You're not her." The thing smiled. "She's here, somewhere inside, still waiting at the altar." still holding the ring you left behind. Then, I stepped closer. The floor groaned under its weight. I turned to run, but the aisle had changed. No longer a straight path. Twisted, folded, like the church was alive. And it didn't want me to leave. Candles floated now, off the pews, up toward the ceiling, burning without melting. The air shimmered, and every pew I passed, someone was sitting in it. Figures in decayed suits, veils, sunken faces, silent, watching, wedding guests, who never left. I ran, ducking past pews, leaping over melted wax, ignoring the whispers that followed me. Say it again. He promised. Finish it. I found a back door, shoved it open, ran into the woods behind the church. Branches clawed at my face, roots grabbed at my ankles, but I didn't stop, not until I reached my car. I jumped in, locked the doors, and just breathed, hands shaking, chest burning. But when I looked into the rearview mirror, she was sitting in the back seat, veil over her face, silent. I screamed, swerved. The car veered off the road, slammed into a tree. Blackness. When I woke up, it was dawn. Windshield cracked. Blood on my lip. Empty passenger seat. But there, on the dashboard, her wedding ring, still warm. There's no denying it now. I was supposed to marry Celia Bramwell. But something else wanted her too. Something that still wears her voice, her face, and it's waiting for me to finish what I started. What if the promises you forgot were kept by something else? Something that remembered them, word for word. I don't remember driving home. Not after the crash. Not after seeing her, in the back seat, silent, watching. But somehow I woke up, in my own apartment, lights off, door wide open, my shirt soaked in dried blood. That wasn't mine. I checked the mirror. No cuts, no bruises. But my eyes, they looked different, like they'd seen something I wasn't ready to admit. On the kitchen table, the wedding ring sat quietly, beside the invitation, the same one, still sealed with wax, still dated July 14th. Except now, the year was scratched out, and in its place, written in trembling ink, it's today. My clock said 1:17 p.m., 43 minutes. The wedding was in 43 minutes. I should have thrown the ring away, should have burned the veil, should have left the country. But something inside me, not fear, guilt, was stronger. So I got dressed, not in the tux, just black jeans, a jacket. I drove in silence. No radio, no thoughts, just the ticking of the clock, and a pulse in my neck that felt like it wasn't mine. When I reached St. Elora's, the church was no longer ruined, the paint restored, windows unbroken, the stone path lined with candles that hadn't been there yesterday. The air smelled of lilacs again, fresh, heavy, suffocating. I stepped inside, and time bent. The air shimmered, like heat waves, on a road soaked in gasoline. But everything was beautiful. White petals carpeted the aisle. The organ played itself, soft and slow, the way I used to hum when I couldn't sleep. The pews were full. People I didn't know, or didn't remember, all turned toward me, smiling, silent, their eyes too wide, too bright. I walked to the altar, 'cause I didn't know what else to do. There was no priest, just the veil, and the ring, waiting. Then, she appeared. Celia, her skin no longer pale, her cheeks flushed, dress clean, eyes warm again. She looked like the photo, like the memory. She reached for my hand. I hesitated. You remember me now? She said softly. I nodded. I do. She smiled. And then the chapel shifted. The guests clapped, but their hands didn't touch. The sound came from inside the walls, like insects, slapping their wings in rhythm. My throat tightened. Do you take her? A voice boomed from nowhere, to bind in soul and silence, from this world into the next. The words were wrong, twisted, old, like they weren't meant to be spoken by human mouths. To speak no more of life, to walk with her beyond death, to never leave again. I tried to pull away, but her fingers dug into my wrist, cold, unforgiving. You said forever. I looked into her eyes. Behind them, something else blinked. Something ancient and hungry. I'm sorry, I whispered. Say it again, she hissed. Say the vow. The guests rose, together, all in perfect unison, their mouths open, no sound, and their faces began to melt, skin sloughing off, eyes bleeding, lips pulled into grins that split their jaws. Celia turned to me, her face contorting, veins black, eyes glowing. You promised. And then, I remembered the vow, the real one, the one I said, before I forgot everything. If I ever leave you, let me forget who I am. Let me forget you. Let me forget the wedding, the altar, the chapel, all of it. And if I come back, let me take your place. She smiled, not sweetly, but with teeth, and everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was standing at the altar. Celia was gone, but the pews were still full, still watching, and in my hand was a veil, and behind me, in a long mirror on the chapel wall, I saw a man standing beside me, smiling, holding my hand. He had my face, but I wasn't inside it anymore. He turned, looked at me through the glass, and mouthed two words. Thank you. What happens when you're no longer the one inside your life? What do you do when someone else wears your name, your face, your love, better than you ever could? I was frozen, not in fear, in detachment, like I'd been peeled away from myself. My body stood at the altar, calm, composed, a groom ready to say, I do, but the real me, watched from the other side of the chapel mirror. Trapped, weightless, silent, I pressed my hands against the glass. The mirror didn't feel like glass, felt like skin, warm, breathing. Inside the chapel, the impostor held the veil, smiled at the crowd, looked down at the ring, my ring. Then, he placed it on an empty finger. Celia never reappeared. No bride, no voice, no body, just him. And the guests, still clapping, still melting, still watching. I tried to scream, but no sound came out, just fog, thick and warm, coating my throat. I wasn't in the church anymore. Not really. I was inside the reflection, prison of memory, a ghost of a groom who backed out and got replaced. I'm 19, standing outside St. Elora's. Rain is falling. My hands are trembling. Celia is inside, smiling, waiting. I see the flowers, the candles, the ring in my palm, but I can't do it. I run. I whisper to the wind, let me forget. Let me forget everything. Something hears me, and I do forget. Until now, back in the mirror world, I sank to my knees. What was I now? A memory? A shadow? But then, I heard something. Soft, close, real. Her voice. Celia. Not the demon. Not the twisted version. The real her. Nathaniel. I turned. There she was, standing in the reflection beside me, in her wedding dress, clean, whole, eyes full of grief and hope. You came back. I couldn't speak, just nodded, tears building. You didn't leave me this time. I stepped toward her, but she stepped back. You can't stay here. I blinked. What? This place feeds on broken promises, and it was never yours to fix. You loved me, but you were never meant to save me. I shook my head. I remember now. I said the vow. I said I'd take your place. She smiled. But it wasn't joy. It was mercy. You tried. But he's not you. He never was. Then, she held out her hand. If you still love me, then let me go. My chest ached, like something ancient inside me was breaking loose. I reached for her. Fingertips brushed. Light sparked, and the mirror shattered. I gasped, collapsed onto the cold chapel floor. Alone. The guests gone. The candles snuffed. No veil. No tuxedo. Just me, covered in dust. Blood on my lip. The ring missing. I staggered outside. The church behind me looked abandoned again. Windows cracked, doors crooked, stones black with moss, like no one had set foot in it for decades. As I walked to my car, something crunched under my boot. I looked down. Me, Celia, smiling. But now, there was no chapel behind us. Just a white field of lilies, an open sky, and on the back, in her handwriting, "You remembered." And that's all I ever needed. I moved, started over. New town, new job. I still have the photo, framed, hidden. Some nights, I hear the organ in my dreams. I see that version of me, the smiling groom with perfect posture. He still wears my face, but he's somewhere else now. And I'm here, not a ghost, not a groom, just Nathaniel, alive, but never the same. Do you think this was a ghost? Or something worse? Was I haunted? Or was I the haunting? Comment below, and subscribe to the Veil of Secret for more terrifying true stories. Because sometimes, the story doesn't end when the church doors close. It ends when you finally remember what you promised and who you left behind.